Here we are at CoinAgenda 2021. I'm honored to be sitting down with Ben Goertzel. Ben, thank you for sitting down with us. Can you tell the people what you're working on right now?
So I'm working on a host of different things. So I'm CEO of SingularityNET, which is a decentralized AI platform. And so we're building out the platform so as to better and better serve decentralized AI at large scale and low cost. So we're porting our platform from Ethereum to Cardano in search of greater speed and greater scalability and some other special features. But along with that, SingularityNet is incubating a whole bunch of ecosystem projects which leverage the SingularityNet platform and its AI. So one of them, Singularity DAO, a decentralized finance project, we did a token sale for a few months ago, and I mean that's now already hard at work using AI to trade various altcoins. And NewNet, which is a project that allows anyone to earn tokens by contributing their processing power from their devices to a decentralized AI network. That one we're just in the process of spinning off, and a public token sale begins in the next week or two, newnet.io. Then what I've been showing off here at CoinAgenda was, among other things, a project called Awakening Health, which involves a humanoid robot called Grace, which is being rolled out for the elder care market. And Grace's AI runs on SingularityNet, a sort of decentralized blockchain-based backend. But I mean, she's a physical robot that can go into old folks' homes and help assist nursing assistants. And then the AI we developed for Grace, we're then rolling out into some other things. There's a project called Twin Protocol, which lets anyone make a digital twin of themselves, sort of a deepfake avatar, model of their voice, but then also a model of themselves, one from all their writing, and it kind of figures out what they might say in a certain situation. So my deepest interest here is in the underlying AI, like how do you make these various AI systems think better and better and understand better and better. But the blockchain aspect is more about how do you ensure that the control of all this AI is decentralized and democratic, rather than like holed up in a few companies or government agencies or something.
What's like the worst case scenario for the Singularity?
Worst case scenario? Yeah, however bad you think it is, it could always get worse. So let's see, imagine a human psychopath mind uploads everyone into a virtual simulation of Christian hell, and then we're all burning in virtual boiling oil until the end of the universe. Right? So I mean, you can imagine very bad scenarios, even worse than the annihilation of the human race. But I don't think there's any reason to consider them especially likely, right? I mean, clearly, at every stage in human history, there's been huge risk. Right? We went from tribes to agriculture to industry to computers. I mean, we went through nuclear arms races and so forth. So I think there are, of course, dangerous possibilities involved in the advent of advanced technologies like AI. But I think if we make sure that AIs are being used for good things as well as selfish or nasty things, elder care, robotics, education, art, science, and if we ensure that the control of the AI is sort of diverse, democratic, distributed, I mean, then we're biasing the odds in favor of a positive outcome. But you're not going to have a guarantee. So if you're a person who needs guarantees, well, A, you're probably not watching a crypto podcast, right? But B, you're going to be very unhappy as the future unfolds, because I think humanity is in for a wild ride in the next few decades.
Why? What kind of wild ride?
Well, we're moving toward a situation where humans are no longer the most intelligent beings on the planet, or if we are, it will be because we're not in traditional human form anymore, and we've like cyborged our brain and with a super AI brain lobes, right? So in the optimal case, super AIs will create unimaginable to us now abundance for all humanity, right? Where, any physical object you want, you can just 3D print with your nano 3D printer. Any sickness you have, you can ingest some nanomites, so go through your body and fix it, right? So, mental illness can be resolved by understanding how the brain works and repairing it. So we have the potential to build utopia, right? But even if that happens and we have utopia in, say, 30 or 40 years, what happens along the route there, right? So when, step by step, I think most human jobs will become obsolete, and then we'll have to have universal basic income of some sort just to ensure people are taken care of, even though their labor is no longer as efficient as in automated systems. But then, who gives universal basic income to the average working class person in, say, Cameroon or the Central African Republic? I don't see who's going to. So if you then have a situation where people in the developed world are, living in a emergent economy of abundance on universal basic income with manufacture and services provided by robots and such, and on the other hand, in sub-Saharan Africa and Central Asia, everyone has to go back to subsistence farming and rooting around in the garbage because the global economy doesn't need them. Then you have an ideal scenario for some hacks on the power grid, hostile takeovers of the nuclear missile launch system, right? So I think, in theory, crypto can help with this by providing methods of wealth generation and wealth distribution and education that go beyond national boundaries and cut beyond the traditional political and economic structures. On the other hand, rollout is a challenge, and some governments will ban crypto. Some governments, like El Salvador, will embrace it to an extent, right? But it's hard to see. It's easy to see a positive outcome. It's hard to see a smooth path toward that positive outcome, because too many of the current power elites will lose their relative standing in the changes that are coming, and they don't want that.
Mm-hmm. There's a gentleman who ran for Congress in Harlem in 2020 or 2019, and I believe he's running for it again, and he is actually experimenting in Harlem, I believe, with a cryptocurrency-based UBI program.
Yeah, and there's been experiments with that in Scandinavia and other places, and you mentioned New York. Andrew Yang, the presidential candidate and New York mayoral candidate, he was a big supporter of universal basic income also. And I think that's what will happen. My main concern there is really not that we won't have UBI in the developed world. I think ultimately, some form or another, that will happen. But I'm not sure what happens globally. Like, how do you get UBI in Congo and Afghanistan, right? There's a lot of people there.
There's a lot of crypto adoption in Africa, but that's another. So I guess a general point about UBI is that if you use the US dollar to issue UBI, you could dilute the value of the dollar, and thus the people, the poor mainly, who are receiving the devalued dollars can't buy as many goods even though they're getting the UBI. So that's why I think cryptocurrency-based UBI that is parallel or not state-run is actually a very viable alternative, if not actually I think the only viable solution when it comes to
I think UBI that's not state-run is the best option, although not for the reason that you said necessarily. I think there's a great passion in the crypto community for the sort of money supply theory of inflation, and the idea that if you increase the supply of a currency, that will necessarily cause inflation. And historical analysis doesn't really bear that up. If you look across global currencies or cryptocurrencies, you don't actually see the effect that when money supply is increased, inflation follows. And that's not true in US or Europe or China, but also in crypto. If you look at what happens when a cryptocurrency introduces staking, a lot of the tokens are locked up. There's not really a pattern that more tokens staked affects the price of the token in a predictable way. So that the whole relation between money supply, inflation, and deflation seems much more complex than anyone understands. But I think for political reasons, I mean, no country is going to want to give UBI to everyone in the world, and most countries don't want to accept that sort of handout from some other country either, just because of the asymmetric status relationship it implies, and because that will piss off some other country, right? I mean, it seems like if it's going to work, a global UBI would have to sort of come in orthogonally to all the mess of national politics, and let each nation rule itself over its currency, while those currencies become less and less relevant to actual business and humanity, right? And then Facebook wanted to do it, right? Which is significant risk that some company will step in. But then what you saw, like India doesn't want Facebook, Philippines doesn't want Facebook, right? They don't want a US company to come in and control their system either. So you need something that's free of countries and free of traditional corporations that are situated in particular countries. Unfortunately, you probably also need something that's free from domination by money launderers and crypto whales and so forth, which is also not a dynamic that most national leaders want dominating their countries' economies, right? So I think crypto has the potential to solve these problems. The socioeconomic dynamics of current major cryptocurrencies has still a lot of weaknesses, but crypto is in very early days, right? I mean, the regular fiat economy has been around a long time, is very fucked up. I don't think it's ever going to get cured. Like the crypto economy is also fucked up in many ways, but maybe these are like growing pains, and things will look quite differently in a few years once it's matured.
Awesome. We've had the privilege of hearing from Ben Goertzel today. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us.
All right, yeah, thanks for indulging my speculations on the world economy.
From a broom closet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.